Cool. So I think we're live, Morgan. I
Perfect.
don't know if you can see it on your computer, but I can see it over here on my screen. So we are live here. And today we're going to be talking about postpartum depression. And let me introduce myself for those of you who may not know me. It's my group, but this is Yashima Marshall. I'm a peer and coach, social work for about 20 years. And I'm also the host and founder of the Hot Moms Conference. And I also administrate a lot of groups on here, parenting groups, mommy groups, and what have you. And my passion and purpose and mission is just going to help moms make life a lot easier for them. And some of the things I do is do what we're doing today, bring guests on who are experts in their field and come and talk to us about some issues or some things that are really going on out here in the mother world land and just the world in general to help us get some more education and understanding of some topics that are really near and dear that affect us as mothers pretty much every day. So today we're going to be talking about postpartum depression and self-care and the mommy blues and all those things and what's the difference. You know, some of us know it and some of us don't. So I brought a special guest on here who is an expert in her field. This is Mrs. Morgan Rahimi. Am I saying it right?
Yep, you said it right.
Boom. And she's a licensed marriage and family therapist, amongst other things. And she'll tell you that thing. So I'll let her introduce herself to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be asking Morgan some questions, and she'll be talking, and she'll probably give some information just in general. But I'll be asking her some questions, and she's going to be sharing with us today. So if you have any questions, you can post it down. In the comments, and I'll be able to see it for you, and we can kind of go from there. So go ahead, Morgan, introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Hi there, I'm Morgan Rahimi. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in Florida. I'm also a mom of two and had some perinatal issues, and that is why I now specialize in perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. I'm also a certified trauma EMDR therapist, and I have a 4 and just turned 7-year-old yesterday.
Just turned 7, a birthday.
Yes.
Woo!
I am here to answer any questions you may have about perinatal mood disorders, postpartum depression, as we usually know it.
Okay, awesome. And so we can start off with that. I mean, you say you had a little bit of prenatal, and I can tell you for myself. I'll start off with me a little bit and why I really thought it was so important too. Is that I had a lot of prenatal issues too, and as a mother, I came on. I was excited about being pregnant, was planned, and all that good stuff. And I tell you, everything that could have and would have went wrong with my pregnancy did. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's my first pregnancy. This is not supposed to happen. Everything's supposed to be perfect and happy and whatever. And everything that could happen happened. And I had an early term pregnancy. So I went to the hospital at 28 weeks.
Okay, that is.
Yeah. 28, 29 weeks. I stayed in the hospital for about a week and a half before they prepared me. They were preparing me for birth. So I was there for a week and a half. And so that was really traumatic. You know, everything leading up to that was kind of traumatic. And so I went through a little bit of baby blues and some postpartum depression because after my baby was in the hospital for 30 days, he was born premature, obviously, for 2 pounds and 12 ounces. Fit in my husband's arm. We were a little arm right there when he was born, and so it was a big deal. And so postpartum depression is something I deal with. I even before I went back to work went to a therapist.
Okay.
Just to make sure. And so I know it's really important. And people, like I was telling you when I asked you to do this, people were in groups and they were talking about, you know, postpartum depression and what to do. When do I go to a therapist? Is it just the baby blue? Is it going to blow over or whatever? So, and that's why I kind of brought Miss Morgan on here so she can kind of shed a little bit of light on there. So, Morgan, starting with that, feel free to share your story about your prenatal issues and kind of tell us what is postpartum depression.
Okay. Well, everyone, bear with me. I'm on my phone because apparently it's Tuesday and my computer doesn't want to agree with me. So bear with me. So I was a marriage and family therapist, had a planned pregnancy. It did not go as I thought it would. I had a lot more issues than, I thought I would have because that's not what people talk about. And I really did have some postpartum depression and anxiety, which is definitely something they didn't talk about at all, was the anxiety part of things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. But it's a lot. I thought I was totally, prepared for all of that, my husband and we have no family here. So I knew that would be a little bit more difficult, but it was a lot more than I expected. And there was really, especially 7-8 years ago, there wasn't a lot in Central Florida. And as a therapist, I didn't even know perinatal issues was a thing. And so I'll talk a little bit about that too, because I'm on a nonprofit board locally to really raise awareness about perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, because most people either are misinformed or don't know anything about it. So basically what happens, and what most of us know, is basically what's seen on the media or on, Facebook and so forth. And most people only publicize the really, really bad or the really, really good. And there's a lot of in between, and it's much more common than most of us think. And so a lot of what I do is really just normalize what people are going through, because it is really common.
Yeah.
And so baby blues happens to, and all percentages are different depending on what you read and so forth, but probably 60% or so of people probably have baby blue issues. The problem with baby blues is that it's really just an adjustment. It's usually, 1 to 2 weeks afterwards. And then after that, it's not really baby blues anymore. I'm not really one to look at black and white dates and so forth and say, well, that can't be that because it's past the 2-week mark.
Mm-hmm.
Postpartum issues can happen, they're perinatal issues. So they can happen while you're pregnant. They can happen even before you're pregnant. They can happen if you adopted. So there's a lot to it that we don't really know.
Adopting,
basically,
that's something different there.
Right. Basically what I tell people is if it's an issue for you every day and is causing issues with life, you should at least try to consult with someone and see if they can help you. It's a total adjustment. So a lot of us are misinformed in how we think it should be. We see it on TVs, we hear from friends, we see the wonderful Facebook pictures, and we think it should just be so easy. And I have a new puppy in my house, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
They show on the TV. So a baby that's totally dependent on you, it's a huge adjustment. And it's okay to have it be an adjustment. If it's not, I would say that, we probably should talk about that, because
it's like that's the part of the promo that you're worrying more about. Like, so everything's perfect.
Yeah. And that's
good. And you're, nothing, even if you're, and not just a first time mom, even if you're a second and third time mom, it's an adjustment, that comes with that. But it's funny you say that, how sometimes, because we're not prepared and told about that, because I think sometimes we're told not to share all the horror stories, right?
Post the good things. And so what I tell everybody is that, first off, if you can, try to get off social media. Yes, it helps to some degree. There are some good support systems on social media. At the same time, though, everything everyone's posting, I have, as a marriage and family therapist, I have some clients who really just have some adjustment issues. Maybe it's not about baby. Maybe it's not about different things like that. Maybe they're not even married. They could be single, but they could be having a wonderful day. They go on Facebook, and all of a sudden they're comparing themselves to people who maybe they are going through wonderful things. Most of the time, those people are going through a lot more than they post.
For sure. Because you're going to post the good stuff, right?
Right.
You're going to post.
So people post wonderful photos, and then you find out they're divorced a week later. So, life is not as most of us want to present it as. And so to assume that having a baby, and especially the first time around, having something that's totally dependent on you, I know it was a big adjustment that I was not well prepared for.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you introduce breastfeeding sometimes.
It's a lot. Well, and our society really does, and I work really hard at saying whatever's best for the parent at that specific event is what we need to do. We have a lot of pressure in our society, and perinatal issues have been around for centuries.
Sure.
You'll see a lot of family or friends who mean well, who will say, well, that wasn't a thing, maybe they're a little bit older and they're like, that wasn't a thing. Well, first of all, it was. They didn't talk about it.
Right.
People have stories of Aunt Marge who got sent away.
Yeah.
They really didn't, face those issues. You weren't supposed to talk about it.
Right.
You really had severe issues. You kind of usually left the family, not by choice. But at the same time, we live in a different age. So the whole concept that you live near a whole bunch of family members is really not a given for most people nowadays.
No, it's not.
The concept that, you should work, maybe not work. We have a lot of stressors where, all of our kids are supposed to be bilingual by the time they're 6 and be swimmers and play 7 sports. I mean, we put a lot of stress, and I see it with all my mom's friends and clients and all of that we really do try to compete, even if we don't think we're doing it. But the world's just different. It's not, you can't send your 4-year-old outside by themselves nowadays. There's a lot of rules that, get hit on us that we maybe don't even know, from breastfeeding to make sure you're using the right bottle if you're going to use a bottle. So, and a lot of people, even second time around, go, well, this is what I did for the first one, so this is what I'm going to do. And I said,
right,
you really just have to weigh the options and see what's best for you.
Exactly.
A fed baby, and I will do whatever my clients think is best or whatever my friends think is best. But really, there are some priorities where a fed baby is the most important thing.
Exactly. And however they can get that. That's right. And you see a lot of the pressure, mothers do. And sometimes, like you say, you don't do it intentionally. Compare yourself. But sometimes it's hard. It was funny. We were on a group. I'm always on these mommy groups, and sometimes I go on them for some good laughs, because we are mommies. We are some funny people.
We are.
We talk about our family and kids. But I was on there, and it was a mother talking about how she was a bad mom because she kind of sometimes intentionally or unintentionally enjoyed comparing herself, her child doing very well, and the children who weren't doing very well, and progressing along developmentally between that 0 to 1 age, like when they're going to walk, when they're going to crawl, are they standing there on the way, are they holding their bottle, all that good stuff. And she secretly, enjoyed, that process. And I tell you, people were so angry with her, but I didn't mean about anything by it. I was just saying that I feel bad, but I actually feel that way. But your baby will be fine.
For a culture of comparisons, I mean, enough to say who's the tallest in the class, who's the fastest, who runs the quickest, and I see it now with my 4 and 7-year-old. I mean, we're causing somewhat of an issue, and so if we don't talk about it, I mean, it's something we don't even think about. My daughter comes home from school and tells me, Mommy, I was the fastest at writing. She doesn't know, how if she was the fastest at writing.
Right. And so how do you think all that, when you think about a mom when postpartum, so, is this a real clinical diagnosis? Is it like depression? When you say postpartum depression?
So basically, let me just go over what most of us either know of postpartum depression, which we either think is one specific thing or a lot of things, because that's how basically the media talks about it, or postpartum psychosis. So those are basically the 2 things people talk about. There is a whole bunch of other ones, okay? And this is really just during the perinatal stage, okay? So I had someone once ask me, what's the difference between postpartum and depression? Well, it's during the perinatal stage. It's different. You probably are causing you some stressors than if you during the perinatal. But it's the same depression. Most of us are informed on what symptoms of depression are, though. From the movies and the TV shows, we usually think depression is only, and this is what I see. This is from what I see just talking to people in the community, to friends. People say, well, I wasn't crying in the corner all day. Apparently, and I wasn't driving into a river with my kids in the car. So apparently I'm fine.
Right.
Well, fine is kind of a weird word, because there's really no complete definition for that. But there's a really gray area around there. Postpartum psychosis, let me start with that, because that's what most people are terrified they have.
Okay.
Postpartum psychosis happens to less than 1% of the population. Okay. But that's what we hear about. That's what we see about. That's where some mom, and it's about maybe hearing something in the world is trying to communicate with you, and you think they're telling you is a good idea. Okay, may have vision, may not, but those are the stories where you hear someone drove their children and themselves into the river.
That's right. Those are the stories you hear.
They're rare, and a lot of times they are missed. And we just watched a current documentary on it. A lot of times what they're talking about is that's postpartum depression. That is not postpartum depression. That is postpartum psychosis. It is super duper rare. It happens, from what most people say, very quickly after delivery. Okay. And it is a very scary, scary thing that maybe you don't notice, but your family and friends could. But at the same time, that's not postpartum depression. That's not just purely crying in the corner. Postpartum depression is could be crying in the corner, could just be really sad. The problem with a lot of these symptoms is, and even with baby blues, is go along with having adjustment and having a
Okay.
if you're not sleeping, and that's what I tell most people is, tell me how your sleep is. And I know to a new mommy, that's, kind of a silly question. But
it's real.
For a lot of people, in some countries, use it as torture. Lack of sleep can cause a lot of issues. So a lot of people feel much better when they get some semblance of sleep, which I know is hard to say. I've seen moms with twins and triplets with no family here. So I know it's hard, but realize how much better people feel with it. Okay. But at the time, postpartum depression, there's also postpartum anxiety. There's postpartum OCD. There's postpartum and perinatal, and all of these can also happen while you're pregnant. There's postpartum bipolar. Okay. So there's a lot of different aspects of postpartum that we don't talk about. Postpartum anxiety and OCD-like tendencies may be more prominent and more prevalent than actually depression, we're finding. Because
when we talk about the postpartum anxiety part about that, what does that look like for people? When they're thinking about that, like, what does that mean? What does that look like?
So I get a lot of people who, and so there are some people, and I'm not trying to confuse everyone by watching, but I'm trying to give different pieces.
That's right.
People who are predisposed possibly to having more issues in perinatal or postpartum times. Those are people with, family history of mental health issues or themselves. People who maybe have economic issues, maybe family issues. Okay. Trauma history, people with PTSD and so forth, because there's also postpartum PTSD. Okay. But what the difference would be between, and I do get some people who, I've had anxiety my whole life, but this is, okay. It's and so there are definitely people who've never been anxious a day in their life. They have a baby, and all of a sudden they're anxious. Angry too. They might be stressed. They might not be able to turn off their thoughts. And that's a big thing. Intrusive thoughts, which basically happens to everyone, has shown that it probably happens to moms 80% more. We just don't talk about it. But people really freak out about the postpartum psychosis because they're having intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts could be everything from maybe something that you've seen in the past. Maybe you watched a horror movie. You just used to work in a hospital. I've seen that. Okay. To just, you're worried about another human being. It's right. So I have them all the time. The problem with intrusive thoughts is, depending on what they are, they can be really scary. And so, for instance, it could be, I'm sitting, my baby's having a bath. I'm sitting there. They're old enough to sit up. I'm going to reach to get the towel. What if I reach to get the towel and they drown? Okay. And then, oh my gosh, postpartum psychosis. I just imagined my baby drowning. Well, and I always tell people, you should don't just assume. But at the same time, if your baby possibly drowning freaks you out, which it totally should, it's not fun, but it totally should. If it freaks you out, guess who's probably going to be the most diligent mother ever, or father, or family member to give that baby a bath? You. Okay, the baby might actually end up being stinky because you don't want to give a bath, but that baby is safe. And that's the difference between intrusive thoughts and what people are afraid of with psychosis. And I get it all the time. I'm afraid to tell my doctor or my therapist that, I saw myself dropping the baby on the stairs. And so my first question is, so tell me more about that. And they're like, well, it was very, now I'm horrified. I've been sleeping on the couch. I say, well, if you're thinking that's a horrible idea, which it totally is, and I don't think you wanted to do that, then I'm not concerned about you. That's awful. We can work on coping techniques to work on that. Yeah. But you're probably the safest parent to walk that kid up the stairs.
Because you're already thinking about it. You're praying for it. And at what point, what point do you think that when those intrusive thoughts turn into something you would say as a therapist if your client came in or someone came and see you for the first time. They told you more about it. At what point would you say, well, that's kind of concerning? Now what do I do, or how do you?
So, I mean, we always, and that's why it's so important, because that's a good question, and that's where you hear in the media about someone going to go see a doctor or a therapist and they get locked. They shouldn't have been locked up. Perinatal mood disorders is not something they teach us in school for therapy. It's not talk about. Hopefully, they start doing it now, and that's what we're really trying to push for with some of the different organizations. But doctors, we did a forum for a local radio station, and we had OBs and psychiatrists there. The OBs were very honest, but said they get very, very little schooling on perinatal mood and anxiety disorders.
Wow.
So most people, you know, and that's where the horror stories come out, is they tell the person who doesn't know that intrusive thoughts are so common, or all of these other things. You need someone who knows perinatal mood and anxiety disorders.
Right. And so, I mean, and like you say, it's more normal than it's not.
Oh, 80 to 100.
You know,
fight of them. They sound horrifying.
Well, that's fine. I was just telling my son a funny story about my oldest son yesterday, and my baby was, he was mature, but he didn't have any medical problems. So he was at home with Timmy when he was 5 pounds. 5 pounds, and he was still little, and so I was totally, you talking about anxiety level, over up here, and I had every probably intrusive thought that I think of. What if I drop him? What if he's not? What if he doesn't eat right? What if he started losing weight? I'm not a good mom. All these things are how to hold him right, because he was so little still.
Right, and those are normal.
Yeah, I had all those thoughts. But it was one time when I was there, he was drinking his bottle, and probably normal. Sometimes they like gag on their milk to try to drink it too fast. I tell you, I called 911. I said, "Oh my God, I told you I was going to kill this baby. Call 911." And my husband said, "Oh my God."
My son was my first child until he became a toddler. Was a pretty easy baby, but you don't know. And so I remember the one time he choked. I remember the one day he got croup, and I knew what it was in the middle of the night, and I freaked out. Those are the things most of us don't talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, or the fact that, another interesting thought, that the fact that we had his best, and my husband had that at the foot of our bed, and we slept there. And I tell you, the first 30 days, we probably didn't have any sleep, any noise.
Right, because you were terrified that something was wrong and that you needed to be on to be able to help.
Yeah, because he's in the hospital for 30 days. So but it was, like you said, it was normal.
It's normal. The more we can normalize that for parents, that it's huge adjustment.
It is.
Elementary school teacher, and you've never been an elementary school teacher, and all these kids have all these issues, and so oh my gosh, is that okay? Is that not okay? It's a new job.
It's an adjustment.
It's scary. And now, and some people, have people to talk to. I didn't have any mommy friends. Probably would have helped a lot. So I definitely tell people,
so that's a good thing, having some mommy friends to talk to, like you said.
Friends. And if that has to be through the internet or whatever, I just tell people, be careful, especially through Facebook groups and so forth. And you've seen it, especially the big ones. Some of the advice they give is really bad.
Or sometimes when you go in there to try to get them, you think you're sharing, get some support, or you just want, like you said, you just want to share, talk about this feeling you're having, and you're 500 comments later, you're the worst mother ever. And so all of us are good and bad moms. Yeah.
There's no perfect mom. I own my stuff all the time.
Own it.
We have my clients. It's a learning curve, and we have to be honest. And there's no perfect mom out there. But the more we can be honest but helpful, but also what I do and what you do are two totally different things. Oh, there's 100% right way to do things. To me, is not, yes, a car seat, make sure it's proper. But besides that, every kid is
different, even your own. And we know that. Right. So funny. It's like you talk about one good thing to do. You said making sure that you have mommy friends to talk to. What are some other tips you can kind of give moms and everything?
For mommy groups, and especially because I was the new mom who tried to go to groups when I had like a 3-month-old.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really, I'm at the playground while my kid's like, still, breastfeeding, and all of them are playing on the playground. So, within reason,
Yeah.
it fits. And I say mommy groups and mommy friends, because I get a lot of moms who are like, well, I found that group, but with them. Take some time. It's like joining a gym or going to a school. Schools fit you, some don't, and that's okay. Especially for Central Florida, we have a wide range. Okay,
Yeah.
that one didn't work. Try another one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that really helps. Outside exercise, really helpful. I know it's really hot, but locking up inside, no matter if you have a 3-year-old or a baby, sweating is okay. I mean, I'm from Florida, so I know for some of you moms, it's really, really hot. But you could go early, you could go late. You just is a real that you need to avoid. So I tell everyone, as long as you're medically allowed to, walk,
Mm-hmm.
so getting those endorphins, the bilateral stimulation you get from walking can really help self-soothe you. It's just good to be outside. The sun is good.
Yeah.
Within reason. I know it's very hot and babies, it's very hot, but do those kinds of things. You need some mommy time, which I know everyone rolls their eyes at me when I first started. I wouldn't have an issue, but you can 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, but you have to also ask for help. And I know some of you don't have anyone to ask for help, and that's why I think the mommy groups are so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any family here, but I have mom friends now who all help each other out, and it took some, but it is doable. Okay. But especially with significant others or family members that do live here, they don't know what they're supposed to do. So a lot of times we do need to ask for the help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe have a conversation, not when we're upset, but actually talk to them and say, when I talk a lot with clients about having like a code word. So if you're really upset, not to use those words, but instead use, pineapple, and pineapple.
Right.
Other, I need a break. I need you,
That's good.
back. And I know a lot of moms think that's selfish or whatever, but especially if you have a significant other or family members, they can help, and they're not supposed to. And I get a lot of people are like, well, my husband or my significant other or my mom is like a babysitter. Well, depending on who they are, maybe they are just a babysitter. In general, we also haven't given up the reins to them. Okay? Do it exactly, and especially for my anxiety clients, which is one of my specialties, a lot of the anxiety clients, you have to they're not going to do it exactly like you do. And at first, maybe you need to just watch them, but I do a lot of coping techniques with my clients. You can learn coping techniques. We kind of have to get out of our heads. Everything is not going to be perfect. This is the one time for a lot of us moms, we are not in control, and it does get like we get more control when they get older, is it?
Yeah, it's just like
they say, hey, Mom, now that I'm 7, you can.
It's okay. You got to learn like it's okay. Let them do it. And we have, like you said, the anxiety of them not doing it exactly the way we want to do it, and especially if we have spouses, our partners, significant others. Like, oh no, he should do it like this. I said, and I had as part of my parenting program. I said, listen, the goal is what? The baby needs to be bound to bed at 8:00, right? Mm-hmm. That's our goal, right? Mm-hmm. So if he bathes, then milk, and then you milk, then bathe,
right?
Does it really matter how the order happens? The baby's in the bed by 8 p.m., right?
Right.
In our end goal, like
as long as the baby's safe. And I know that's hard. So sometimes I know I had to remove myself some of the times because I'd go to tract. I know the baby's safe. I know my mom can take care of it. And so I just needed to remove myself. But the more you remove, a little at a time, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, even if that's what you do, the more you can breathe.
Well, you can breathe.
Having one thing that you're totally responsible for 24 hours with no break. It's
a lot, and it's overwhelming. And sometimes moms are not given that space and that transparency to say that. Oh, this is a lot. I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to pull my hair out.
You're not a bad mom for saying that.
You're not a bad mom for saying that.
You're a good mom for saying that, because if you go too long, it's going to get worse.
You're going to become what you consider a bad mom. I mean, it does. And it will happen just, organically. You're like, wait a minute, I've been neglecting this. Now I'm frustrated, so I'm yelling. I'm doing things that are not very, productive and effective because I haven't really taken care of me and allow myself to say I'm overwhelmed. It's okay. Of course you're overwhelmed. You have 3 kids. I tell people, I don't know how you did it. We have 4 kids and they're all still under teenagers. What?
I have 2 and I'm good.
You're awesome. Like how you're flowing, so it's because it's a lot. But you in our society, like you say, sometimes in motherhood, it's just something you're supposed to take.
We're all supposed to be like Martha Stewart before.
Come on. Or I always say, I'm not Mrs. Cleaver. I'm aging myself a little bit. It was a show called Leave It to Beaver, and Mrs. Cleaver always came on and pancakes or waffles. Really? No, I'm not gonna do that every night. Nope, I probably won't. Nope.
And we do. We set ourselves up. We compare. Especially with information that's not totally right. But the research shows over and over again, you have to take care of yourself. For your family, a mom needs to take care of themselves. Realistically. Now, I have some people who miss doing, 3 hours a day of yoga. And if you can fit that in, then I am happy for you.
Yeah.
Most of us, that's probably not completely realistic, especially at first. But if you have certain things you need to do, then you need to, work that out.
That's right. And so it's like, you just need to find, like you said, even if it's 15, 20 minutes.
Right. It's baby steps.
It's just baby steps, and find that time until you're ready to go. Oh, I can be gone for, I mean, when you're nursing, especially when I was nursing a preemie baby, they eat every 2 hours sometimes at first. And so
15 minutes,
you see that? Yeah. So it took, like you said, baby steps to the point. Eventually I got to the point where I can actually go for an hour or 2. I'm just going to Walgreens. It doesn't really matter.
I want to friend party. Yeah, it's really nice. It's especially in summer. With my son was born in June. So.
Yeah.
And so it's baby steps. And I know a lot of people say sleep when the baby sleeps, and people are giving advice. Do what you need to do. I know sometimes I felt very like I needed to sleep when the baby slept. I tried. That didn't always work for me.
Didn't always work. Right.
And so, but a perfectly immaculate home is not a necessity. And I'm a very clean person, and that was really hard for me to understand. I had to go to therapy to help me with that. But
that probably stressed you out a lot. That was your thing.
Mm-hmm. So just going through all of those things and knowing what can work, and especially if you have a partner who will talk to you and so forth, you can talk about these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people are like, but the house has to be clean. He loves the house clean. And I said, have you actually had a conversation with what he thinks about? Because a lot of the spouses I see are like, she cares much more than I do about the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We think are something they need us to do, and they're not necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying your house should be gross.
Right.
I'm sleeping over cleaning the whole house and having it totally perfect. Sleep is more important if you can do that.
Right. You'll be refreshed and ready to go with your family and kids.
You might actually be able to get more done. So.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, you know what? I have any questions. Let me look here before I say that. I'm on the Facebook page. Okay. Nope. No questions. Okay. So good. So I'm going to leave this up. And I'm also going to share this on my podcast.
Perfect. Thank
so
you.
People can hear it because it's some good information. Just sometimes, practical stuff sometimes moms need to hear, and normalize it. Like you're saying, sometimes it's more normal than not. But it was really good, interesting that you were talking about the other things that happen, postpartum, not just depression, but the anxiety sometimes is even more prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
With it. So you talked about a lot of good things. How can people get in contact with you, Morgan?
So I am a local therapist. So you can find me at Climb, CLIMB, counseling.com. And if you Google perinatal or PPD, you can find me in Orlando. My office is in Winter Park. And we also do a lot of different activities for the community and so forth to raise awareness. So I always post things to my Facebook, and you can find my Facebook at Morgan Rahimi LMFT, and I always try to post our different activities on there. And then it's Central Florida Postpartum Alliance is our nonprofit, which we post to. We're actually doing a diaper drive to raise diapers. for those in need. That's one of the things that that's the one thing most moms don't have enough of.
And that's good. And you are good at that too. To know that. Say that. And so good. And so you'll also be at Hot Moms coming up in September. I almost forget about that. So she's going to be in Hot Moms on our expert health panel. I'm calling it our Healthy Moms panel. Perfect. And Ms. Morgan will be on there talking about giving some more health tips, and they'll be sharing just other ways as moms we can be healthy, for ourselves and for our family. Because like she said, if we're not together, moms are not healthy, then our families are going to suffer. So we care about making sure that happens. So thank you so much, Morgan. If there's anything you'd like to say to everybody before we go.
Thank you. There is help out there if you need anything, and feel free to always message me. I'd be more than happy to guide you in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Talk to you soon.